Hello and welcome back, student. We are continuing with high performance liquid chromatography instrumentation part. So we are here now with the HPLC part 2B. We will continue with the instrumentation what we have learned in the previous lectures. So we have studied that there are the reservoirs for various solvents. If it is isochromatic system, you will have only one reservoir. If it is gradient system, you will have two, three, four or more reservoirs depending upon how many solvents we are mixing during process of elution. Then there are certain degassers which will provide degassing of all the solvent systems. So they are operating with the vacuum pumps. So to remove the dissolved gases, we can use the vacuum pumps. So degassers are equipped. Then there is a mixing vessels to mix all the solvents which are coming from the pump. Then there are certain selectors which are used to select these solvents. Then there is a high pressure pump to pressurize the liquid which is coming in from the mixing vessel. It passes through the pre-column for filtration process. Then it goes to the flow splitter where it will split in two parts. One part will directly go to the detector and other part to injector and column. So injector, different types of injectors we have studied. Either there are um, loop injectors, Riodan type or auto injectors. Then the sample and your mobile phases passes through this column. We have studied. We are studying now various types of column in this presentation. Then after separation, the elute will reach to the detector where we already have the solvent as a reference and the sample is coming to the detector, that is flow cell, where we can measure their absorbance and we can quantitatively determine the samples. So up in the last lectures, we have studied this solvent reservoirs. Then we have studied the pumps which are used, vacuum system, degassings. Now we will start with the next part, that is the columns. So HPLC column is the heart of separations. Controlling a separations means understanding, controlling the chemistry and physics going inside of the column. Different column can vary in plate number, band symmetry, retention, band spacing, and lifetime. Generally, the columns are constructed from stainless steel or heavy wall glass tubings. There are the various types of column used in HPLC. Some are analytical column. They are again of two type, macro HPLC column and micro HPLC column. The micro HPLC column are having the length of 25 centimeter and internal diameter of 4.6 mm with particle size of 5 micrometer. Whereas in micro HPLC column, UPHPLC column, we can say the length of column is only 5 to 7 centimeter and internal diameter is 1 to 4.6 mm with particle size 3 to 5 micrometer. So these are ultra performance high pressure liquid chromatographic columns. They are having minimal consumption of solvent and maximum desired speed of analysis. So now we are shifting from macro columns to the micro columns, but it requires very high pressure in the pumps as compared to your macro HPLC. The another type of columns which is used in HPLC is a guard column and preparative columns. So this is a photograph which are showing you the column which is used in HPLC with guard column system. So this is a small guard column. Okay, so it is used as a protector which will prevent entry of your unwanted substances. So what is the guard column? It is positioned just before the analytical column. It is used to remove any particulate matter and contaminant from the solvent. Packing material should be same as analytical column. However, the particle size is between 10 to 15 micrometer in order to reduce the pressure drop. There are two types of packings used in HPLC column. One is called as a pellicular support, which refers to the solid support which may be porous bed or it may be solid bed meticulously coated with fine porous layer having diameter ranging between 30 to 40 micrometers. The another type of the packing material used in column is a porous support. It commonly utilizes porous material, that is alumina, ion exchange resins and silica with diameter varying from 3 to 10 micrometer. Generally used packing materials include silica based packing materials, that is most popular, having narrow pore size and diameter distributions. It is having the higher mechanical strength, highest efficiency, no dimensional variation, which is there with certain polymer base. When they absorb the water, they causes the swelling and result into the change in diameter, but silica does not shows such properties. Surface acidity causes problem when separating basic compounds. That is the basic problem with the silica base adsorbents. So we have studied two types of chromatography. One is called as the reverse phase chromatography and normal phase chromatography. In normal phase chromatography, we have studied that there is a polar stationary phase and non-polar mobile phase. Whereas in the reverse phase chromatography, your stationary phase is generally non-polar type and your mobile phase is polar type. So what are the various non-polar stationary phase used in column HPLC? This includes C18 columns. We always say C18 column. So C18, that is octadecylsilane. Then there are C8 columns, that is octyl type column. C4 column, that is butyl type column. Phenyl type column. TMS column, cyanotype columns. So what are these? This is the silica which is bounded. So this is called as a bounded silica. It is bounded with certain non-polar group like C18. So C18H37 is a non-polar group which bounded to the silica which is acting as a stationary phase. Therefore, these type of the columns are called as a bounded silica columns. So this process of bonding is done by various techniques like silyl derivative formation. So this silyl derivative will produce the reverse phase column in your HPLC. Another packing material is polymer base. Most are divinyl benzene cross-link polystyrenes. They are having the longer life and lower back pressure because they are porous one. They are having the wider pH range, can be used for separating highly basic solutes at the higher pHs. Particles swells can be more noticeable in gradient elution packed bed, can shift low efficiency. This is the problem with polymer based packing materials. Swelling. Change in mobile phase composition may result in swelling. And also, they are not efficient at the higher temperature. Some chromatography which uses normal phase, stationary phase, they include silica gel type. So this silica gel for general use, then cyanotype, that is for general use. Cyano groups are attached, that is modified silicas are used. Then amino type, certain chiral substances or certain sugar substances can be separated on amino columns. Diol type, diol, two hydroxyl groups are attached in the diol stationary phases. So they are used to separate protein for the analysis of various amino acids. So these are certain stationary phases used. Now we will proceed with the detector which are used in HPLC. The detector can detect individual molecule that elute from the column and convert the data into an electrical signal. A detector serves to measure amount of those molecules which are there in your sample elute. The detector provides an output to record or computers that results in liquid chromatogram. Detector is selected based on type of analyte or the sample under detection. The various detectors used in HPLC. So this is the list of detector. UV visible detector, then PDA photodiode array detector, RF that is fluorescence detector, CDD that is conductivity detector, RID refractive index detector, ECD electrochemical detector, ELSD that is electrospray light scattering detector, and the last one is a mass spectrophotometer detector. So these are the various detector used in HPLC. Don't confuse the detectors which are used in HPLC with detector which are used in gas chromatography. Do you recall the detectors which are used in gas chromatography? Pause this video, list out the detectors which you have studied in the gas chromatography. If you have finished, restart the video and check your results. So in gas chromatography, we have studied we can use the thermal conductivity detector, flame ionization detector, and electron capture detector as the main type of detector. So these are detecting the component which is coming as a elute from gas chromatography. Here we are detecting the liquid chromatography detectors, that is UV visible, PDA detectors, etc. So don't confuse with these two types of detector. Now we'll see the first detector, that is ultraviolet or UV visible detector. This type of detector responds to substances that absorb the light. So what are the minimum requirements to show the light absorption in UV, UV visible or whatever it is? So you know that as per our discussion, there should be the double bond system and there should be the lone pair of electron present in molecule, then and then only it can show ultraviolet visible light absorption. The UV detector is mainly to separate and identify the principal active component of a mixture. UV detectors are most versatile, having the best sensitivity and linearity. The UV detector cannot be used for testing substances that are low in chromophore, that is, they are not having any chromophore group. Do you remember the definition of chromophore? These are, what is the definition? Chromophores are covalently unsaturated groups which are responsible for absorption of electromagnetic radiation. Okay, so they may be colorless or virtually colorless compound. As they cannot absorb light at low range, they cannot be used in UV detectors. They are cost effective and popular and are widely used in industry. So these are the advantages of your UV visible detector. They were having high sensitivity, that relative robust to temperature and flow rate range, compatible with gradient illusion, but they are also having certain disadvantages that only compound with UV visible absorption could be detected by using ultraviolet visible detector. Now the modified ultraviolet detectors or the additional functions has been included, that includes dual wavelength mode. At a time we can have the detection at two or more wavelengths in this detector. Then wavelength time programming. After a particular time period, the wavelength automatically changes and we can detect the radiations at various, we can detect the absorption at the various wavelengths. Wavelength scan mode, this is most commonly utilized because we are exactly, if we are not knowing what is the lambda max of your separated compound, then we can go for wavelength scan mode also. So this is ultraviolet visible detector. Now the second one is your photodiode array detector. So what are the advantages? The photodiode array detectors could analyze sample simultaneously at different wavelength. Okay, so here wavelength scanning you have studied with the UV visible detector. Its more advanced version is photodiode array detector. So there is an array of various detector diodes and which can scan at a time all wavelengths at this array. Therefore it is called as a PDA. UV visible spectra are useful for compound identification, checking peak purity as well as finding the optimum absorbance for the compound. UV visible spectra of many compounds could be stored in spectrum laboratory which are useful for compound identification in case of PDA detector. PDA is nothing but the advanced form of UV visible detector. It is relatively robust to temperature and flow rate fluctuation, but and it is also compatible with the gradient illusion. But it has certain disadvantages like slightly less sensitive than your simple UV visible detector. Okay, so this is the functioning principle of your PDA detector. So these are called as arrays. Okay, so 199 to 800, every wavelength is measured in the separate detectors. Okay, so there is an array of detector, therefore the name photodiode array. Okay, this mirror is there. So this is the flow cell, the sample from the flow cell. Okay, so whatever radiation needs to be absorbed, they will get absorbed. The rest of the radiations will pass into this detector. Every detector will check the wavelength which is reaching to this. So it is having the advantages that we will get a 3D determination, that we can determine wavelength, time, intensity or concentration of your species. Okay, so here we will get the time at which you will get the maximum peak. We will also get the lambda max. So this is very useful if you are having the unknown material to be detected or separated. Then the next is your refractive index detector. Okay, RI detector. So many times we observed that in ultraviolet visible spectrophotometer, there should be the absorption by the substance. If the substance are non-absorbing, they cannot be detected by UV spectrophotometers. There, this refractive index detectors is used. There uses a monochromator and is one of the latest sensitive LC detector. This detector is extremely useful for detecting those compounds that are non-ionic, do not absorb ultraviolet light, and do not fluorescence. So the substance examples are sugars, alcohol, fatty acids, and certain polymers. So they can be detected by using RI detector. It has advantages that it responds to nearly all solutes because it is a bulk sensing detector. Okay, so thermal conductivity detector is there in case of your GC. Here also refractive index is a bulk sensing detector. Whatever thing comes into the solution or mobile phase, it changes its refractive index and that can be detected despite of its composition or nature. It is unaffected by the flow rate, but it has a disadvantage that not as sensitive as the UV visible or PDA detectors. It could not be used with the gradient illusion because there in the gradient illusion there is continuous change in mobile phase composition, and that results into the fluctuation of the refractive index, and that will not give you the correct readings. The next detector which is used in HPLC is a fluorescence detector. So instead of using UV visible spectrophotometer, we can use spectrofluorometer as the detector. So this is a specific detector that senses only those substances that emits the light. So the substances which are able to produce the fluorescence, they only can be detected by using such type of the detector. This detector is popular for trace analysis in environmental sciences, where you required very small quantity to be detected. Fluorescence detectors are used. These are specific one. It is very sensitive. Its response is only linear or a limited concentration range. Very small concentration means it at the higher concentration it will not show you the linear response. As there are not many elements that fluoresce, sample must be synthesized to make them detectable. Many times we need to convert the sample to the fluorescence derivative, then they can be detected by fluorescence detector. It has advantages that sensitivity is higher than the UV visible detector. It is selectivity is high because relatively few compound fluorescence. It is also compatible with gradient illusion, but it has more disadvantages, that is difficult to predict the fluorescence. If you are unknown about the substance which is to be separated, we cannot go for the fluorescence detector. So greatly affected by environment, we have studied the term quenching, that is decrease in fluorescence. So where various factors are there like solvent, pH, temperature, viscosity, ionic strength, and dissolved gases, which will cause decrease in fluorescence. So same effect will be there if you are having these parameters with your sample. Now the next detector is electrochemical detector. So electrochemical detectors are selective as relatively few compounds are electroactives like your conductivity meter, etc. Excellent sensitivity for low concentration range, but it has certain disadvantage that it is sensitive to temperature and flow rate fluctuation. It is not compatible with gradient illusion. Aqueous or other polar solvents containing dissolved electrolytes are required. Only the aqueous samples can be detected. They must be rigorously free from oxygen because that will interfere. Like your polarography, we have studied that the oxygen, dissolved oxygen, should be removed before you take the polarigram. Okay, amperometric titrations also. So this is the diagram of your electrochemical detector where we are having the working electrode, reference electrode, and auxiliary electrode. There, the sample which is entering from flow cell will enter simultaneously with reference electrode and working electrode. Reference electrode is filled with the solvent, and reference electrode, working electrode, is also filled with your samples. The many instrument uses a mass spectrophotometer where we only not interested in separation and detection, but identification of compound is also done by using mass spectrophotometers. The mass spectrophotometer detector are coupled with HPLC is called as the HPLC MS. We also have studied the GCMS instruments. In case of gas chromatography also, we can couple mass spectrophotometer to separate and identify the samples. Here also, we can couple mass spectrophotometer with HPLC to separate and identify the sample. HPLC-MS is the most powerful detector widely used in pharmaceutical laboratories and research and development. In clinical laboratories also, HPLC-MS is widely used. The principal benefit of HPLC-MS is that it is capable of analyzing and providing molecular identity of wide range of compound. So here we have completed all the instrumentation part of HPLC. Now we will meet in part 3 where we will discuss the theoretical part and the principles part of your HPLC. Thank you and see you in the next lecture.